The funky music go with the boys.
Welcome to the Meeple Syrup Show, Designers Discussing Design. We are on episode 69. Designers with a last name that begin with L are cool. Or actually, I can't read the rest of the title, but I believe that's what it says. And I know it's true because we have two very cool guests on, but I don't know if it applies to Lim. We'll find out. Maybe
totally
in time,
does.
So.
Totally does.
So I'm here with my co-host Sen-Foong Lim and Tyler Anderson. I gotta ask, Tyler, how you been?
I have been doing okay. I've been playing lots and lots of stuff. Recently played Strife Shadows in Steam. It's going to be kickstarting in a couple weeks. It's their second edition in the line. They've done a steampunk theme. They've given new abilities. There's tokens that will go on the location cards. It's a fantastic two-player game. I really liked it.
How about you, Sen? What have you been up to?
I've been working on Outlander a lot, so that's what I've been doing. I've been trying to maintain mechanical integrity as well as thematic integrity. So that's been what Jesse and I have been doing lately. And then Jay has been just churning out ideas because he's part-time now and he can do that. So our design train on the other end of things is going really well. And a neat thing that happened, a guy from Germany, Hilko, he just out of the blue emailed Jay and I the other day saying, I love Train of Thought, and he's liked it for a long time. We know this because he emails us about it every now and then with his favorite trains. And he said, but I wrote a review for it in German, and a German publisher asked if you have the rights or if Tasty Minstrel still has the rights because they were considering it. So he's going to kind of show it to this publisher at Nuremberg, which is really cool, of somebody just randomly doing that for us. So that's kind of fun. So shouts out to Hilko. That's really neat. How about you, Daryl? What have you been doing lately?
It's been probably the most prototyping I've done in a while, all compacted into 1 week. So a lot of the cafes, it just worked out that it was their prototype nights. Over the weekend, we had our Bradslaw game day and did some, play testing there. So I can't complain, but I did get to play one game that I loved last year that I was really itching to play again, and that was Lagrange. Lagrange.
Lagrange.
Yeah, it was awesome. I love that game. It was great to play that again. And something that I think is very applicable, well, not very applicable, I guess, but I expected it to be more applicable, was, and this was on my hit list to play, was Kemet. For a long time, I really wanted to play Kemet, and I always thought of it as dudes on a map with dice. That was in my head what I thought it was. But it's not a dice game. Actually, they deceive you because they give you like a 4-sided dice, and then they say, don't roll it. It's just for tracking the temple. And you rotate to see what power the temple's at. Which I actually like when games do that with dice and do different things with dice. Which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit more because we have a couple designers that have designed some great games with dice. I don't want to belabor or stall anymore because they're here, they're ready, and I just want to jump right into things.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
So we have Chris Leder here and Matt Leacock, a couple fantastic designers with a variety of games to their credit. And if they... Ooh. Hey, there they are.
Hey, that was
awesome. So, welcome to the show, Matt and Chris.
Thank you.
I'm going to jump right into it with Chris right away because you are looking pretty festive for a game of yours that just came out.
Look at him.
Yeah, lay it on us. What's going on? What's the newest, best dice game out there, Chris?
The newest, best dice game out there is Trainmaker from Graynome Games.
Both Sen and I got to play this at New Year's. We were very excited.
Yeah, my son liked it. He
Wonderful.
had fun. Yeah.
That's what it's all about, man. That's, train games run the gamut, right? From the crazy ones that it takes like 18 hours to play down to what I created, which is something you could play with your family. So that's what Train Maker's all about. Custom train dice, man. That's what I'm all about.
Hmm.
Cool. And Matt, I believe you've made a game or two, perhaps?
I've made a game or two, yeah.
Yes, I'm sure everyone knows who you are, sir.
Well, that's the funny thing, because I was just talking about that on another show where somebody showed me a picture of them shaking hands with Tom Vassell, and they were so amazed that they got to meet Tom. And I said, "Hey, do you know who that is in the background?" And it was Matt. And they're like, I don't even know who that is.
Yeah.
But you know what else I heard the other day, Matt, when Nitwit was shown online, was somebody said that they would pay $50 for socks with your name on it. What do you
I
think?
saw that. That was great.
That's
great.
awesome.
I can stop and think about a future in socks.
Future socks business.
Socks futures.
Socks game mashup. I can see it.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tyler. Ask your question. Sorry, I jumped all over that.
Okay, that's okay. Perhaps you would like to tell us about a dice game, Matt?
Dice game?
You've created a dice game.
I've done a dice game. Yeah, I got a dice game. So we're talking about dice games.
Well, just to keep the theme we're
Pandemic
talking
the
with
Cure came out.
Chris. Yes.
You have more than one dice game.
Right. And there's Roll Through the Ages, the Bronze Age.
Oh yeah, that thing.
Yeah. He
And
just
then
pulls
the
out a
thing that
Rolodex and starts naming
Matt
games.
is completely vicious and it belies his smiling face when he plays with, like, maybe me only. I don't know if he has this vendetta against me. He just throws javelins at me and crushes my chariot and all these things. There's other things that Matt has with dice, but we'll find out about them maybe in the foreseen future.
But he's not wearing a cool costume, so I don't know.
Yeah, so let's just talk to Chris. So Chris, what do you like about dice? What's your what do dice have on you?
What do they have on me? They got the dirt. They got the dirt on me. Ever since I was little, it was dice games. It was Risk. It was Yahtzee. And I think it's just something to do with you just never know what's going to happen. So you could roll the dice, you could have a great game, you could have a bad game, but as long as it's a shared experience, that's what I like about the dice. They're the great equalizer. You never know who's going to be good, who's going to be bad with a dice game. So as I'm becoming more in the design phase of my life, I'm realizing that gamers really want ways to mitigate all that luck, but for families and for kids, they just like it because they never know what's going to happen. So I think that's what I like about dice is just, usually the games are kind of crazy. You never know what's going to happen. So that's what I like about them. And as much as I try to fight the little buggers, my games always end up with dice in them. I'm like, I'm going to make a straight card game this time. There's not going to be any dice. And then next thing I know, it's like a complete dice rolling extravaganza.
It happens.
That's awesome. And going back to Matt, we already mentioned that you've done a few dice games, but one I think that's kind of interesting for designers to think about is that you really kind of converted a game of yours into a dice experience. Can you talk a little bit about why and some of the design challenges of turning Pandemic to Pandemic the Cure?
Right, yeah, I mean, the idea was to try to come up with a version of Pandemic that you could get on the table in like a minute or two, set it up really quickly, because that's some of the overhead that the board game has. So if you eliminate all that, can you get into the action faster and present a new kind of challenge? And then also maybe serve as a gateway into the board game, so you could play this fast, fun, lightweight version of it, and if you like that, then you can graduate into the board game. But the central challenge is one I really like. Trying to reduce something complicated into something very, very simple. How do you take Pandemic and just throw the board out and start over with rolls and dice? So I really, really enjoyed that challenge quite a bit.
Yeah, I actually got opportunity, and I think Sen will remember this too, because I think this was the first time we both saw The Cure. Was I had run a local board game convention called the Board Game Bash, and we got an advanced copy of the game. We had one of the few that was in the big clear container, like medicine containers.
Yeah, with like a hand cut circle.
Yeah, and it was awesome. And I remember putting it out in front of people, and people were like, "Whoa, that Pandemic's different." And very quickly, the people that already knew it picked it up right away. But then they're like, whoa, that was so much easier to teach. So a lot of people really found that as a fantastic tool to like introduce their friends to Pandemic. So I see that as a real pro.
I had an exact same situation. A gentleman I know, a friend of mine named Bob Oswald, who lives right near me, loves Pandemic. I mean, crazy Pandemic fan. And he scored one of those early prototype copies with the little plastic thing. And so when he laid it out, there's a certain amount of like hesitation, like, what can this possibly match the great Pandemic? And then we played it and we were like, well, damn, it did. Yes, it was very good.
Thanks, I made those 6 copies on my kitchen table with my kids, and those went all over the world, which was really fun to watch them travel.
So if you're watching the collector items,
I don't know where they are. I think I've got one of them somewhere.
I have a question for you, Chris. Since you are very prolific with dice games, do you, when you're initially designing, do you think, okay, how am I going to best this dice game, or do you just simply make a game and then dice work their way into it?
It varies, but I think I like to give players choice, and I think that my brain is wired such that it likes to go back to dice for choices. I like to be able to roll dice and then decide what to do based on the roll that I just made. So that's not necessarily where I begin. Sometimes it's where I end up. But to give you an example, one of the games I'm working on now is an amusement park, basically idea, and it's been a card game, but my brain just keeps saying find a way to put dice into it, and I think it's just because there's kind of a way that you can play around with dice in different ways that isn't what people expect. So I think I can't say whether it begins there or ends up there, but somehow dice always end up in the mix.
Now, while you're thinking of that, do you strictly, because I got a game this week, Deviltree Station, it's a card Western shoot 'em game, but they're all custom dice, so it's not a 1 to 6, it's a boot, it's a door, it's a gun. Do you prefer a 1 to 6 die, 1 to 8? Are you going to go to custom dice, like in Trainmaker?
Well, who doesn't love a good custom die? I mean, really, you
and the expensive cost.
That's true. Yeah, I guess the publisher maybe doesn't love it so much when they look at the cost at first. But if I could get custom dice in my games, I would always prefer that to a straight 6-sided die, unless there's a specific reason why it needs to be a 6-sided die. With pips.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I
too love custom die. I actually collect all sorts of dice over there. There's just buckets and buckets of dice. Suzanne, one of our favorite viewers, Suze has a question for Matt. Matt, what are the key things you consider when you're designing cooperative games, dice or not? So, example, do you actually design around alpha gaming? Do you design in terms of pacing and difficulty curve? And I know some of the answers to this, but I'd love to hear them again.
Sure, yeah. There's a lot of different things involved. So, I mean, I want to create an engaging story first and foremost. So a lot of it is trying to draw people in. You want to capture fun first of all. Are you presenting meaningful decisions to the players, and is the game, basically these are like little engines that create stories. So, is the challenge meeting the players' skill level first of all, so that they can make interesting, challenging decisions, and then does that ramp up, and does the game pull them in and pull them through, so that the stakes keep getting higher and higher?
Was that a Trainmaker joke there? A little engine? And
yeah, forget my hat. And then you need breaths, right? You need some tension and release, and tension and release, and that draws you into the games. So that's the first part. There's other considerations. I mean, because it's a cooperative game, the players need to have a sense of identity. So, they're typically embodied by their own unique pawn, often have different role powers. I haven't played too much with information sharing, like, I've got information that you don't, or any of the social types of things with traders and such, because I really like the group decision-making type game. I find those the most satisfying because you can get really creative and build on each other's ideas, and so I tend to prefer a pure co-op, but I do find it interesting when you got one player opposed to the others. But all that can really help with a feeling of autonomy and making sure that you don't have that one player who's playing quarterback. Then those are the first things that come to mind, I guess, when thinking about the games. Drawing people in, keeping them engaged, getting them in that nice little flow channel, and making sure that they've got, they feel special and they're not just steamrolled by any one player.
Mm-hmm. And now, do you think that dice would facilitate what you're trying to do, or was it hard to put dice in a game like Pandemic: The Cure and still get that feeling when a lot of it is, more luck involved when you have dice?
Yeah, I think the dice actually helped quite a bit in that game because, it's one thing to point and tell someone, you should really do this, or even pick up their pawn, which I find a very bad play. But you don't pick up another person's dice, man. I mean, that's
I've killed men for laughs.
You don't do that, and people don't. And so, for you to actually pick something up and roll it for someone else, I mean, you're just being an ass. So, I think that in the Cure that helps mitigate some of that behavior because you're not going to do that.
I almost punched a guy at game night one night for touching my stuff.
You don't touch your dice, man.
We were playing downtown London, and we're sitting there. This guy comes, sits at the end of the table. Oh, you're not supposed to have those cards and those cards. I just looked at him like, one, who are you? And two, you're going to get hit, and I know how to play the game. Like, I was just like, yeah. You don't touch people's stuff. Okay.
That's the one piece of advice. If you're watching the show, don't touch people's stuff. All right.
Yes.
I'm going to go back to Chris, designer of Roll For It. We haven't talked about that yet, and also your role with Calliope Games.
I see what you did there.
Little bit about your experience with this game. I mean, I have an anniversary or a special edition that I got at Gen Con, so clearly this game is kicking butt. So tell us a little bit about it.
So that was my... I'd been designing games for a long time, but never with any idea that anything would ever happen with it. It was all just a little hobby. And Roll For It came about at a time when I'd been working as a retail manager for 10 years. My job went poof because I'd been there too long, was making too much, and they said, we're going to let you go. Had a great severance, and my wife said, why don't you go to Gen Con and actually try to do something with one of these games? And Roll For It had been designed specifically to get her to actually play a game with me because most of my games were a little heavier and strategic. So she actually encouraged me to go to Gen Con, and I pitched the game to a few different publishers, including Calliope, and it fit in perfectly with what they are all about. The games that are gateway games for families, ones that can play quickly and are easily taught. So Roll For It, if you've played it, is a super duper complex game that takes about 3.5 hours to play. Oh wait, no, it's not.
It's the guy from Boyer is really wrong.
Yeah, right. It's about as simple as it gets, and I have no delusions that it's like super crazy. No one could have come up with it before, but it was a game that got my wife to play games with me. So, and then once we were developing that, I got to know Ray Weirs, who's the president of the company, and one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. And
we love
Ray is crazy nice. We love him.
He's the best. Everyone calls him the mayor of Gen Con, which fits pretty well because he's just the nicest guy. But he knew I was looking for a job, and he said, would you like to come aboard and do some sales, do some
I see what you just did there. Look at you. Roll, come aboard.
See? Woo! So I jumped aboard, and we've been riding the rails ever since. I got to stop. But yeah, no, so Roll For It has been ridiculous. I mean, it's a dream come true. So we had the red and the purple cardboard box editions, and then we had the Gen Con edition, we got the deluxe edition, and it just keeps selling. So it's something that a lot of gamers will kind of turn up their nose at, but it's also something that I've heard from all kinds of people who say that, I actually will sit down and play games, and this was the first one, and then they go on and they play other games, and that's, as a gateway game, you can't ask for anything else other than that. That's exactly what you want to hear.
Yeah. Suzanne said that she carries Roll With It with her all the time because she can get anyone to play, and that it's such a great family game. So excellent.
Fantastic. When we heard it was going to be on tabletop, we pushed to get it on there, and when it was on there, I mean, that was I don't know, it was like just incredible.
Excellent. Tyler.
Matt, two things. One, someone posted a picture on the Board Game Geek Facebook group today, and someone has made, and you can get instructions for this, it's actually the tower from Forbidden Island, and it tracks the water levels, and it spins. I don't know how to bring up pictures on the show, but I saved it today. It's absolutely amazing. The thing looks beautiful. It's like, oh my goodness, it's like so lovely.
That thing's gorgeous.
So first that, and then secondly, with your games, like you have the Pandemic series, you've done Thunderbirds, everything is co-op heavy. Have you considered strictly designing a game where it is the extreme opposite, backstab, go after everyone, crush your opponent?
I have not seriously considered the backstabbing, serious negotiation, and the friendship game, but I've got that bright future in front of me if I want to follow that
Oh,
path.
come on! You made Loop. You made Lunatic's Loop.
Yeah, I did make that. Yeah, I don't have any negotiation games. I've always strayed away from those. I lean toward the co-ops because they are more fun to play with the
Well,
family.
just to step out of your comfort zone, just say,
Right.
hey, my resolution for 2017, people know Matt Leacock for awesome co-op games. I'm going to do something that totally surprises them and blows them away, and it could be your best thing yet that you've done.
It's a stretch goal. I can try to end a few friendships this year.
Yeah, can't you
Let's
immediately?
start tonight.
You can see the BGG thread immediately. Can I make this into a co-op game?
Yeah, exactly. Chris, can you tell us about the Titan series? You said that there's a game coming out that is going to be very dice heavy. Who's the designer? When's it coming out? And what other things are in store for us with the Titans?
So we have 3 games that are coming out in June, is what we're shooting for, and it's looking really good for June. The one that's dice heavy is there's a new designer, totally untested. His name's Paul Peterson.
Oh yeah, nobody's ever heard of it.
So he's got a game called Running with the Bulls, and it's based on, like the crazy bulls running after you, and the whole thing is dice. You got a whole pool of dice that you roll, and those are your runners that are going down. Now, I want you to imagine the board basically like a pachinko machine, kind of, except you're running through like a Spanish town. So you start at the top, and then you go down, and then based on if you're odd or even on your dice values, you go down different roads, and you play cards to try to influence your dice. You can re-roll them, you can move them from one node to another. And so it takes place over 3 days or 3 rounds, going from the top down to the bottom. And when you get to the bottom, you've got different locations, restaurants, nightclubs, and things that are worth different amounts of victory points if you can get to them. So it's a lot of dice. You're rolling a big handful of dice in the beginning, and you're hoping that the bull dice that are coming after you don't match what you have, because they will gore you and knock your dice off the board. So it's a blast. That one's a lot of fun to play, and it's one of those that you play like one of the trips down from one node to the next, and immediately you know exactly what the game's all about, and you're having fun playing it. So there's that one. We've got one by Richard Garfield called Hive Mind, which is a great party game, kind of a get-to-know who can think alike type of a game. And then we've got one from Jordan and Zach Wiseman that's called, well, right now we're calling it the Market Game. We have not settled on a exact name for it, and that one's all about buying ingredients to build menus. As a chef, at the beginning of the day, you're out at the little shops trying to get your appetizers and your meats and your desserts, and you're trying to put together menus. So all 3 games we've been testing like crazy, going through development, and they're going to print pretty quickly. We're getting all the art locked down and everything, so it's going really well.
Excellent.
Cool. That sounds exciting. Another exciting upcoming game, we have Nitwit from Matt just announced. I saw it first on. I saw it by a different name in April, but now it's up on like Facebook and on their website and showing these crazy cool components.
Yeah.
Which my wife saw it over my shoulder and she went, "Ooh, what's that?" So that I thought was a good sign, because I thought, "Ooh, I might actually get another game to the table with my wife." I'm all over for that. So can you tell us a little bit about the game? And it's not a co-op, is it?
It's not a co-op, no. It's a competitive social game is how Z-Man's describing it. So they're only teasing it right now. It's like, I won't dig into all the details right now.
Okay,
But,
so yeah, just tease us about
I'll
it.
tease you. It's the game's got spools and it's got loops and it's got words, and essentially you build a puzzle that shows a lot of different loops and spools, and you need to come up with witty answers that fit the regions defined by the strings and such. So you're like knitting together these interesting concepts. Essentially, you're making a Venn diagram of sorts, and then competing with each other. So the materials are really great. The presentation's really lovely. They give it kind of an arts and crafts feel. So if you've got the image somewhere,
it totally works because my wife loves like Pinterest. She's like, "Whoa, that looks like Pinterest in a game." So
perfect.
There you go. Pinterest the game.
Yeah.
By the end of it, will we be able to crochet nice stuff around coat hangers and baby tubes and
I
all
sure
the
hope
stuff
some
you see?
people take that challenge. That'd be great.
Macrame the game.
Yes, exactly. Chris, what do you have that you're working on that's coming out that you can tell us about?
I have a game coming down the pipe called City of Gears.
Ooh.
I can't say much more right now.
I was going to ask you so many questions, Chris.
I know. I'm like, I have questions on that.
I'm so glad you said that. You couldn't.
Oh,
It's got gears and it's in a city. What more do you need?
Oh,
It's
there's a
dice.
I'll tell you, I have Roll For It's my favorite. Just anyone can play it game. City of Gears is the game that I've designed that I love the most as a game that gamers will probably embrace, and it will see the light of day. The question is when and by whom, and so my development of that has begun anew to build a prototype to get that out there. I'll put it like that, and then
Right.
I think right now I've got obviously we all have a notebook full of different designs and things that we've been working on, but doing development for Calliope and helping lots of other people, whether they want it or not. Daryl, you know how I roll with
yep.
with their games has taken up a lot of my time. So right now I'm just, I'm enjoying helping others and inserting myself and insinuating myself into their lives, whether they like it or not. And,
Yeah, I was very thankful.
I've been working with Daryl on Project X for a few days, and it's been really, really fun.
Hopefully stuff can be public soon. So
Yes,
Excellent.
it's been fun.
Matt. Go ahead. No,
I was just going to say that you have all this time that you're designing, but when will we see more of Shut Up and Dice Say It Happen?
That's right.
That's
really what
hilarious.
everyone's wondering.
And why did you start doing that? People are actually asking, why did Chris start doing that show?
It began at BGGCon 2014 with Pandemic: The Cure. Actually,
Oh my gosh!
Whoa,
Look at that. The
full
link.
circle.
that
Another
was the very first
inspiration
one.
from the
I was
Cure.
making a video to tease Rodney Smith, and
Why would you tease a Canadian?
well, because they can't fight back.
It's actually true.
I think it's in a national anthem, something about "Don't fight back, be nice,
Unless you're
And
wearing a
eat-
hockey jersey and it
and
will
eat
be
craft
you.
dinner." I don't know, something. But
And then we'd apologize for you beating us up.
Yes.
But yeah, I did that live with Scott Morris and who was there? Mike Fitzgerald and Chris Kirkman. So we were just sitting around, and none of us had ever played that before. We played that and Roll for the Galaxy back to back, and someone was like, "We got to look at these rules and everything." So we did a live play of Pandemic: The Cure, and it was rolling things, and it was just absolutely crazy. And I did another one for Nations, the dice game, and then after that I was like, what if I sat down and actually tried to do this a little bit more seriously. And I've had a blast doing it, and I'm trying. I never tried to step on anyone's toes as far as like making fun of the game itself, just make myself look like an idiot, which I don't have a problem with.
Apparently not. Apparently you're really good at it.
But yeah, I have a blast with it, and I try to get them out. But lately, I've been making videos with a green screen with my son with new editing equipment, and it's been taking time away from Shut Up and Watch Dice It Happen because we're making little videos of Jensen flying
Man.
around and being a superhero.
Yeah, like kids are such a
They ruin everything.
they just ruin everything.
Just
I'm selling you. Do you hear that?
get back in the cellar.
We got to hear Matt's daughter play piano earlier. That was nice. That's good.
That's right. Yeah.
Matt, speaking of doodling and sketchbooks and stuff like that, one of the things that you wrote about, I think late last year, was sketching user experience. And I always follow your stuff and get the books that you suggest because they make sense to me. But I haven't got this one yet. Tell me what it's about and why is it a good book for a game designer to look into?
I don't remember writing about that. This is Sketching User Experience by got it right over here. Here it is, by Bill Buxton.
Yeah, by Buxton. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So yeah, he really talks about his relationship to sketching through the years. So for people who don't know, Bill Buxton, he's a user experience legend essentially.
Yeah, he's a guru.
He's done amazing stuff over the course of his career, but he just talks about. He describes sketching as sort of a conversation you have with yourself. You get stuff down, you look at it, you react to it, you internalize it, and then you iterate. And it's a really fast way to get stuff out of your brain. And if you don't have someone to bounce things off of, you can bounce them off yourself. And this is one way to do it.
So it's like a conversation with yourself through pictures instead of words, or a combination thereof.
Yeah, and it's fast and disposable, and you can try out many ideas very quickly. I'm trying to think of some of the other themes in the book. It really resonated with me when I read it, and maybe it's time to come up and check it out again because it's been a little while since I read it. But it did make a very strong impression on me and influenced the way I was. You internalize all these things and make them part of the process.
And ask you to talk about it. So. So yeah, I'll have to read that one because again, all the other ones you've ever recommended to me, I quite enjoyed. So I'll take a look at that one as well. I sketch a ton, and so I just want to see what somebody who's an actual expert in the field of visualization of data and that kind of stuff says about what the sketchbook process is. And then Chris mentioned it. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that thing that Matt wrote. So I think Daryl has a question about games and dice.
Well, yeah, I do. I was jumping back. You mentioned, Chris, Nations, Race for the Galaxy Dice. A couple examples I was thinking of. I got to give a shout out for Viva Java right now, the TC Petty experience.
And yeah, TC's got a whole bunch of stuff on Kickstarter right now.
So check out Kickstarter, support him. We love TC. But this is an example of a game where I like Viva Java, but I like the dice game even more. The ultimate for me is Bang. The dice game. I love this and never go back to my original card game anymore. It just sits on the shelf. But I'm curious, for you, Chris, what games do you think got better with dice, and why did it get better? Because that might help us as designers think through the design process.
That's a good question. Well, let's see. I'll say this. I love Civilization games, but I can't afford to sit down for 3+ hours to play a game as much as I would love to. I used to play Civilization.
Sure.
I play, Clash of Cultures and all that stuff. I can't do that so much anymore. So for me, I love to get a game that gives me a little bit of an empire building experience with dice. So you mentioned, and I said earlier, Nations, a dice game. So I love the idea of the original Nations game. I've heard great things, but it's just daunting to me. I can't possibly justify buying that, and it's sitting on the shelf because I never could play it. But I absolutely love Nations, the dice game. Because I can build a little civilization. It takes 45 minutes, and I scratch that itch. It's the same thing with Through the Ages. Honestly, I love the idea of Through the Ages. I've learned it, and I've played it, and then I don't play it for a year and a half, and then I have to go through the novel of rule book, and there's like 8 different versions of the game that you're learning, and I can't keep track of it. So Roll Through the Ages is a game that can give me a little bit of that experience, and it's not going to be the same, but it's going to be something along those lines. I'm choosing what I want to do with my people and building buildings, and scratches that itch. So for me, the dice game version of a big game always used to mean to me a weaker portable version of the big game. And it's really interesting to me that lately a dice game version doesn't have to sacrifice any of the decision making, any of the fun. Sometimes it doesn't even take a shorter amount of time, like Roll for the Galaxy versus Race for the Galaxy. You're still having to learn, I think it's exactly 2,466 symbols. Icon.
Oh.
But
there he goes. We're back.
But it's incredible to play a dice game that gives you that full experience that the regular, like the parent game gave, but in a different way. So and sometimes there's games, I don't mean to, I'm not like trying to be a super fan for Mr. Leacock, but I can't play Pandemic with my nearly 5-year-old son because there's just too much going on. But I've played The Cure with him, and he might need some help with what the dice do here and there, but he can grasp it to a certain extent that he couldn't with the bigger one. And it's because he's rolling dice, and that's an engaging thing to him. He's got a frickin' handful of bright orange dice, and when he rolls those, he knows what those specific things can do. So he can control that. So I think a dice game these days absolutely doesn't have to sacrifice all the strategy and fun of the big game just to be like a portable little mini version anymore.
Great answer.
We have a question from the audience. David Tomei would like to know, Matt, how do you feel seeing all the happiness and fun you've brought to the community with Pandemic Legacy?
We're number one. We're number one.
It's been kind of a roller coaster. It's been really fun. It's been nice having a partner too with Rob Davia. We can email each other and go, what? So it's been fun just watching the stories come through and seeing everybody's excitement and then getting occasionally flicked off, or when people uncover something unpleasant in their experience that they I think they end up blaming themselves more often than not, but they like to share their passion, let's say, with us. That's been a lot of fun.
Cool. Now I have a question for all four of you, actually, and if you want to take time answering it, because we have the master of co-op games and we have pretty much the master of dice games here, should your paths intercross, like how does it work for you two and for Sen and Daryl? Like, hey, I've got an idea, I want to work with this designer, or you just happen to be talking at a convention like, oh, hey, yeah, we should design a game together. Like, from a design perspective, how does that work for you guys?
That's pretty much how you described it, yeah.
Okay, thanks. Next question.
I sent an email over to Rob and like, hey, you want to work together? And yeah, I mean, you meet people and sometimes you'll hang out at a convention. I'm designing a game with a gentleman from Spain that I hung out with in Cordoba for a week, and we hit it off, and yeah, we're designing a game together. So it's fun and interesting to see all the different kinds of people you can meet in the hobby and the different relationships you can develop.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay, now while we're still with you then, in that regard, if you're working on a game and say Daryl calls you up and, oh yeah, I heard so-and-so is working on the same type of game, maybe you guys should talk, and maybe your games are too different or they're similar that, hey, we should join forces and work on an awesome game. I'm not a designer. I don't know how it works, but the audience wants to know.
That actually hasn't happened to me. I mean, people have come to Z-Man with pandemic-related ideas, for example, and we'll vet those and we'll talk them through. But I haven't really. I guess that's the closest example of what you're talking about. And so, yeah, we'll entertain some of those ideas if they make sense, and then sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. So
right.
Take them on.
And yourself, Chris, has that situation come up, or how do you choose to work with someone?
Well, I was hoping after about 70 emails about Roll For It Legacy that either Rob or Matt would get back to me, but not happening.
This is that awkward
Not taking
moment.
the hint, man.
It's kind of funny
you know.
because I actually thought about that today. Not necessarily Roll for It Legacy, but using the dice that Stephen Glenn has in Rattlebones
Right.
Totally.
to have
Totally.
legacy dice. Is
Yeah.
because stickering on dice then changes the probability odds of the weighting of the dice. But if you had those faces that you could
The
take off,
snap-on faces, yeah.
yeah, and then you open a box and oh my god, there's new faces for my die, and you put it on there. There you go, Matt. That's your next thing.
There you go.
Legacy
Well, you
to
can
be
have
the
little
face
weighted signs.
Rattlebones, Roll For It, Legacy, Pandemic.
Yeah, there you go.
I
So
think,
70 emails didn't work, but what might work, Chris?
well, I'll say this, and I have nowhere near as many games out there as some people do, but one of the things that's wonderful about the industry and about the design community is that everyone tends to hold each other up and support each other. So you have conversations with people all the time, and I might be talking to like John Gilmore, and the two of us are just chatting and saying, man, a lot of time travel games out there, and he might say, oh, I've got an idea for something, and I might say, well, I've got this idea, and you begin to chat. You just start to strike up those conversations, and sometimes you go back and forth a little bit, and sometimes it kind of peters out. Sometimes it's like it's on the back burner, and sometimes you get to developing stuff. So what I like is that everybody is always willing to do that kind of thing, though. You put aside ego, and you're just like, let's just make a really fun game that we want to play together. And I think because some of us don't see each other all that often, when you get together, it's like, let's make a game so the next time we get together, we can play this really cool thing we made. So that's my experience. Is just a lot of sharing ideas and seeing is there an intersection point where we might be able to come up with something fun, and the door's
Venn
always
diagram,
open.
so to speak.
Yeah, a Venn diagram. My game about spools will be coming out.
So, Daryl, I want to rephrase Tyler's question for you specifically because I know you've been designing with lots and lots of people lately. Odd actually asked, how important is physical FaceTime when co-designing? So, Odd,
That's a good question, especially one for me and Odd, because Hack and I are working on a game together. So it's important for people to have face-to-face time. But the beauty is, in the world we live in, things like this are possible. So you can actually kind of have this pseudo face-to-face time where you can talk through, because of our technology connecting us so well, when someone gets a wave of ideas, you can fairly quickly text someone, call someone, send a message, type it up, whatever. I know for the Bamboozle Brothers, they have their forum where they're always constantly bouncing ideas off each other, and even use the West Coast, East Coast kind of factor in their favor, where I have seen firsthand where Sen's excited in the morning to see what Jay might have responded to last night, things like that. So I would encourage, with co-design, do not limit yourself to only people that you can work with face-to-face. But face-to-face time is rich. It's quality time. So I have found that when I do get face-to-face time with a co-designer, I'm going to soak that up. I'm going to try to use that time and really do as much as I can. And I would guess that's probably the same with Matt. I'd love to hear Matt's response when it comes to the development and design of Legacy, Pandemic Legacy. I'm sure you worked great apart, but there was also probably times when you got together that time was really important. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we spent a lot of time doing video conferencing, screen sharing, meeting, a few times a week, and it's necessary. I mean, we're on opposite coasts, and it's a long slog doing one of those games. So, because it's just so complicated. And the fact that it's a long amount of time means you can kind of let the game gel during the off hours, and then you can meet back up and sync up and have a productive meeting, and then I don't know. It's like ideas have to lie fallow for a little while, then you spin them up again in the meeting and keep going. So that kind of heartbeat works well with video conferencing. But Rob did come out here once or twice, and we went and had some pho nam soup, and that's where we had a lot of our best ideas. I think was just bonding over soup and hanging out together.
Soup is good food.
the
How
wine
many
company.
people remember Romper Room? I see Chris and Matt and Sen. We can all connect through the magic mirror.
They never called my name on Romper Room. And
They never called my name either, Matt.
I mean, it's Matt, for God's sake, you know.
It's Sen. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
sorry,
it's just
Sen.
a nice way to
That's-
get together with people.
I don't understand why they didn't call Sen. That's so
You know what? It is actually it's a point of contention in my life. My friends would, their grandparents would come home from Florida with, their name emblazoned on a shirt, and there was never a
We can get
Sen
you a shirt now, Sen.
anything.
There is that technology.
Do you want a fridge magnet with your name on it?
I do. That would make me whole again. I think I'm a broken man.
Wow. All right, every person watching this episode later, contact me. I'll get you Sen's address. We're going to fill his house with fridge magnets.
Awesome. Chris, why did you mention fridge magnets? Do you have a game with magnets, or do you have a fridge magnet company?
No, but it's funny because my kids both have non-traditional, I guess you'd say, names. So my wife and I laugh because we're like, we saddled them with the sadness of never being able to go into a little gift shop and find anything with their names on it.
They know my pain. They are my people.
Yes,
They are my
yes, indeed.
people. Yes. I have to meet your kids now. We have to bond over this. I will make them custom-made things with their names on it, so they do not have to suffer the indignity that I have suffered for 43 years of my life. 43 years. Oh, you know what the funniest thing was? And I think I've mentioned this on the show before. They used to have these books where you could buy the book and you could get your name put in to the book.
I had those books. I had two of them.
Because you know why you had those books? Because Daryl existed.
No, you know what? It was a fight because it was all double R's.
Oh,
and
wow.
they had to fight them to get this down to a single R.
Because even when I wanted one, they couldn't do it. They're like, no, we can't do that.
Yeah, I have them somewhere. I have a dinosaur book, and I can't remember what the other theme was, but those are great.
It's literally just off camera right now.
I read it every day. So.
He's looking at it now.
It's funny. Yeah, Odd, your kids' names are, those are going to be hard ones too. His kids' names are awesome, and also very
Coming
difficult.
from Odd. Yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, come on.
To be expected.
Question.
I have a Caucasian child, and I wanted to name her Shaniqua, but my wife squashed that one, so... Hey.
There you go. So, but other than the whole magnet thing, Chris, tell us, how many designs do you have going on in your head at once? What stages are your games in? How do you manage your workflow as well as the development of other people's games? Because that must be a thing. And if there's a way to talk about this, I don't know what Ray would say, but do you have an agreement in terms of your designs? While you're working for Calliope, and what happens to those? Does Calliope get first kick at the can, or what? How does that work for you? I'm interested.
Okay.
With what you can say, obviously.
Yeah. No, I'll start with that part first. So we have an agreement that if I design something, that he's got first shot at it. Which is fine by me because obviously if it's a good enough game, he's going to want to pick it up.
Shucks, a publisher wants to see your game.
I know, right? I know. However, Calliope is very specific about the types of games that we put out. So they have to be gateway games. They have to be they have to accommodate a certain amount of people, and play quickly and be able to be learned quickly. And it can't be anything that a kid will want to play it, but the parent has to throw it to win, or to lose, or whatever it might be. So the great thing about that is he's very supportive about that. So if the game's not right for Calliope, he'll take a look at it and say, feel free to pitch it, and I can pitch it to anyone that I want, and he's usually really supportive about that too. And so he used to have a company called Wells Expeditions, which did a game called Arcane Legions, which I don't know.
Oh, I have that.
Yeah, so Arcane Legions was a miniatures game. Jordan Wiseman was big behind that too, and he still loves Arcane Legions. Always wanted to go back and do that again. So a lot of designs, I can tell a lot of the time he loves Calliope. That's where his heart is in that. But I think that sometimes he wants to dig back into the more strategic stuff. So sometimes I'll pitch things and I can just see he's like, oh, I really would like to revive Wells Expeditions and do something. So
well, couldn't he make like a second imprint or something? He has the distro chain and he has the contacts now. I mean, he did then too, but just even better ones.
I think it's a situation where something like that, there's a lot of moving parts and there's a ton of you have to build a community and you have to sustain the community and you have to keep things going in the background. So I think at this point, I think if Calliope continues to grow and do as well as it's doing, then there's a good chance that something could happen down the road. But it's probably something where I think because he really, really loves the Calliope brand. I think he's not in a super rush to go back, but I think that sometimes in the quiet hours he thinks about how he would love to get back to doing that kind of, war type stuff again. And for me, I've always got, you mentioned, different games and you asked about that. I think my output isn't where it used to be. I'm no Daryl Andrews, I'll put it that way.
No.
No one's coming to me asking me to design games for them at this point. But I think it's just, we as designers, at least for me, there's times where you lie fallow a little bit. There's times where you just can't stop the ideas from coming. There was a time, and I still have my notebooks full of different ideas from a few years back, and I think just the nature of life and everything right now, a lot more of what I do is helping with other games and getting them going and, just kind of meeting people. I've been in the industry now for a few years and I'm still getting to know a lot of you guys, and I think ideas will pop up in weird places and based on weird ideas and things. So right now my notebook is full of old ideas, not so many new ideas, but there's a few things in there.
Excellent. So more to come. People, stay tuned.
That's a threat, by the way. That's not.
Dun, dun, dun. And I mean, we also it was a big change about, I think it was about a year ago, Matt, that you shifted to full time.
Yeah, it was about a year and a half ago.
Yeah, and I see like that you've been doing more designs than before, obviously, because you've been able to free up. But could you talk a little bit about what the workflow changes have been for you? A year and a half later, what have you learned? What advice could you give to people that might have more time, or they're hoping to have more time? Maybe even it's just that pipe dream of, someday I'll be able to, get less hours or take one day off from work. How do you use your time now to design games?
It's a huge relief now because I don't feel like I'm stealing my time from something, whether it's my family or my job or what have you. So I can actually sit down and know that, hey, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be working on this. I'm supposed to be writing the rules or watching the playtest videos or sketching or just goofing off with game components. That's just something I never dreamed I would be able to do. So I don't know what various people say. I highly recommend it. It's choice. So I don't know what I could say as far as advice. I spend the evenings kind of making a list of my priorities for the morning so that I can kind of let go and shift gears and know that I've got a good plan for the following day. And I try to time box things up and be real careful about where my priorities are. But I'm starting to get a rhythm of it, with the different production calendars that are you get a feel for how much time a certain playtest is going to take or how long it's going to take to revise rules or what have you. And the different work has been falling into chunks that I better understand. So I'm kind of getting a groove and a rhythm to it. If that makes any sense.
No, that makes total sense.
Well, speaking of making a living from it, I was watching Tiny Epic Western expand on Kickstarter, and I sent Michael a message and just said, you know what, dude? I said, if I could fund like that, I would just reviewing for like 10 years if I had that kind of money. Like, people just throwing money at you. It's like, So, yeah, I would love to do it full time, but, family, and that's the thing. Even to do it as full time, it's like, well, I got to spend time with my daughter. Yeah, I'll do something with my wife, or I'll do the laundry, or I'll go grocery shopping, but I want to do games.
So, Tyler, do you have a question? A last-minute
Nope.
question for Chris?
Nope.
Yeah, you do.
All right, Chris. What I want to know is. Oh no, I don't have a question actually. You put me on the spot.
I even wrote you the question.
Oh, you did? I can't read.
The question.
Oh, I have a question. What advice would you?
Or does Daryl have a question?
Someone tells me to say stuff and I say how quickly. What advice would you give to new designers?
What advice would I give to new designers? Well, here's some advice I would give as the person at Calliope now who reviews submissions and will take meetings and things like that, and having gone through it, make sure that you research the company, the publisher that you are trying to submit to. Know what they're looking for. Don't send some crazy war game to Calliope, and when the time comes, don't go shotgun approach with what you're pitching. Stick to one good design. If they like it, I guarantee they're going to say, do you have other things you might want to show us? Because I've got tons of friends who get a little crazy when they get their foot in the door a little to talk to a publisher, and they want to just kind of go, blah, 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 I've got all this stuff. Here's my entire notebook. And what we want to see is, like when I'm looking at this stuff, has been a lot of thought been put into a game. Has it been play tested? Has it been brought to a point where it's really ready to take the next step? So there's from a publisher's standpoint, that would be my advice. Sometimes we see people get a little too crazy with all kinds of different submissions that they want to put in. And then, the standard stuff, play test as a designer.
Yeah.
You can't play test enough.
Okay, Matt, my question to you is, okay, so what would you tell a new designer about, what advice would you give them to make the #1 game on Board Game Geek? No, really, seriously, like, what would you say? Okay, no, let's backtrack. So if you were to do this all again, Matt, because I've asked you this question before on other things, so I'm not going to ask you the advice question. But if you had this all to do all over again, what would you change? Is there anything you would change in your history or your path to where you are now to get to be a full-time game designer?
That's an interesting question. I can think of some mistakes that I made along the way, but I'm not sure I would do them differently because I learned from them. I tried to self-publish in 2000, and that was a money-losing affair. That was ridiculous. But in the process, I met lots of really great people, and the investment that I made was very small. When you think about the relationships that I got out of it. So. I don't spend a whole lot of time looking back. I don't really have any regrets about any of it, really. Most of it has been just one long journey of fun surprises after another.
Just like a legacy game.
God.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You're like opening doors on your life, and your cards come out. Some things come out that I'm not going to mention.
It's like
say
self-publishing card.
No,
exactly.
It feels like I've been really lucky.
That's awesome. Just burn that self-publishing card.
That's right.
That's great. And so on that note, I think that's a really neat perspective, that mistakes and failing forward is something we do in game design, but it's also something that I think a lot of us have done in life, that we've all had missteps. We've all, published with the wrong publisher or not gone to a convention that we probably should have gone to or whatnot. But in the end, our games get out there, and it's through, really just sticking to it and making sure that you're having a good time while you're doing it, and it's not a slog. So with that note, I'm going to pass it over to Daryl. Yes? Am I making you shed single tears there?
You're bringing the heartfelt moment there.
Yeah, that's my job. I am the heart and soul of the show. Daryl is the brains and the bronze and the good looks, so I'm going to let Daryl finish up.
I'm the monkey!
Well,
I don't even know how to respond sometimes, but that's why we love you.
I don't know how to respond to
That's
that at all.
exactly why you're here, and it makes me happy. So, with that said, I want to say thanks to both Matt and Chris for taking the time with us to chat. Really appreciate it. Great stuff. Hope our viewers will watch. If you didn't watch live, hopefully you'll catch this either on iTunes, where you can listen to us, or you can catch us on YouTube, or you can find us on our website
Thanks,
at
Dave.
maplesyrupshow.com. Stay tuned. Next week we have Travis Chance from Action Phase Games and Jim Pinto both chatting to us. Just they have a couple Kickstarters going on, but also just I love that they are very opinionated game designers. So we're going to try to get them on a few rants. So if you know...
Travis Chance on a rant?
I know,
What?
shocking. So if you know some
Good thing there's a time delay.
if you know some hot button topics that you know will just get them ranting, send those ideas to us this week, because we want to see, the boxing match of Travis Chance versus Jim Pinto on opinions of game design. I think it's going to be a hilarious show. You do not want to miss that. So
I'll have to tell the story in the after party here.
awesome. All right. So with that, stay tuned also for the after show. We'll be on soon. Till then, keep designing great games. We look forward to trying them soon.
Thank you.